Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share both of your frustration. I'll be honest with you, I whipped no on the bill when it was whipped tonight.
Good.
And I whipped no because I want a wall.
That's right.
I voted for the wall every time I've been given a chance to vote a wall. Did you know there's a bill pending in the House of Representatives that's been vetted by the parliamentarian in the Senate that would allow us to pass a bill that would fully fund the wall, not at $5 million, but at $25 million, without requiring a single Democrat vote? Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yep. The 50 Votes for the Wall Act.
Yep.
It's my bill.
I know.
Not going to see the light of day. So I share your frustration. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. But the truth of the matter is that we've got the CR that I do not support.
Good.
I don't know what the whip count was. My guess is, listening to the people around me, it wasn't really good from our side.
It's a bullshit
but we'll see what we're going to do with it tomorrow, one way or the other.
That's what you do with it.
But whatever we do with that, we still have to deal with the immigration issue, not just the wall, but the other issues that y'all brought up. This is the end of my 5th year here. The beginning of my 1st year here, we were at a Republican conference retreat at some place in Maryland, and the leadership passed out some elements of a plan. And I remember, as a brand new member of the House of Representatives, that it was dead before we even got a chance to talk about it. I literally got tweets from constituents saying, please don't vote for something. I didn't even know what he was talking about. We're not going to get anywhere if we don't talk about this directly and openly and honestly and understand how many votes we have, how many votes we don't have to pass what it's going to take to make a common sense approach to the immigration laws in this country. Mr. Perry, all of us are the descendants of immigrants, unless you're Mr. Cole. And Mr. Cole is not. But the vast majority of us are the descendants of immigrants. My ancestors came here before we had immigration laws. That's when we were just looking for anybody who would come to this country, you know. But we are in a different situation now, and we need a system of laws that regulates the number of people that come here and the process by which you come here. It's called the rule of law, and we've gotten away from the rule of law.
Yep.
And the people in my district who are the most opposed to just let anybody walk across the border are people who have gone through the naturalization process. They will chew your head off about this. And the idea that we can't listen to them, listen to our constituents about what it takes to secure our borders and secure the people, just is unfathomable to me. So I wanted to let you know that whatever the outcome is tonight, there are more than one person, probably everybody around this table, that shares your frustration and is looking for solutions. I wish we could take all of our passion and bottle it up, put it in a room with some common sense, and come up with something we all walk out that door and say, that's it. And I want you both to know that I believe strongly in that. I know what you are, and I agree with you.
And we'll discuss.
Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington, and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again. I'm Donald. A lot of fun fighting Hillary, didn't we? Right? There is no global anthem, no global currency, no certificate of global citizenship. We pledge allegiance to one flag, and that flag is the American flag. From now on, it's going to be America first, okay? America first. We're going to put ourselves first. Global is wonderful, but right now we want to focus on our national community. Never again will anyone's interests come before the interests of the American people. It's not going to happen again. We condemn bigotry and prejudice in all of its forms. We denounce all of the hatred, and we forcefully reject the language of exclusion and separation. We're going to come together. We have no choice. We have to, and it's better. It's better. We seek a future where every American child is fully included in the American dream. We're going to have our own American dream, and we're going to bring back the American dream. And I've spoken to Democrats, and I said to them, look, we can't go on with this gridlock. It's gone on for so many years. It's gone on for so many years. They can't get together. We're going to get together. And I believe they want to get together. You know why? Because it's time. And the people are angry. They're angry. And they're going to get together. We're going to make joint decisions. We are, and the nice part, our victory was so great. We have the House, we have the Senate, and we have the presidency.
Trump's first full day as the 45th president of the United States. This morning, the president is waking up after spending his first night in the White House.
After being sworn into office on Friday, the president and First Lady Melania Trump attended 3 inaugural balls last night, including one honoring the military. But it was not all a celebration. More than 200 anti-Trump demonstrators were arrested during a day of protest in Washington. Some set fires or threw bricks into windows of businesses.
Good morning, and there is no question it is the dawn of a new era. Donald Trump woke up yesterday morning in the president's guest house as a billionaire who had never held public office. He is waking up today in the White House as the most powerful man in the world. The president's.
Should I keep the Twitter going or not? Keep it going? I think so. Establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have 1/3 of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. Thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old, I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. What'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Chair recognized the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan.
I thank the chairman. I just respond to my good friend from Virginia. We're not trying to distract anyone. We're just trying to stop this double standard that exists in our culture today. There's one set of rules for us regular folk, but it looks like to me a different set if you're part of the politically connected class, and that's all this is about. And we have two whistleblowers we haven't heard from. We're going to hear from them here in a second, and we'll find out what they have to say and hopefully get to the truth. So before I come to you, though, Mr. Fenton, I want to go to Mr. Hackney. Mr. Hackney, when did you work at the IRS again?
I was in the exempt organizations branch of tax-exempt government entities.
And what years?
2006 to April of 2011, I got an opportunity to join the faculty of Louisiana State University Law School, and it was an exciting opportunity.
Well, wonderful. We're happy for you. But you were there when the targeting of conservative groups started then, right?
Apparently it did, but I was not involved in any of that.
It says you were head of exempt, advised the commissioner regarding exempt organization requirements. This all took place in the exempt organization division of the IRS.
But I did not handle any.
Didn't know anything about it?
I did not handle.
You worked with Lois Lerner?
I did work with Lois.
And but you didn't know anything about the be on the lookout list or anything like that?
I was not aware of those particular...
When did you first find out that the IRS was targeting conservative people and this whole double standard that I just mentioned was going on right in the very division that you were supposed to be advising and overlooking?
Sure, I appreciate the question. I would disagree with characterization of targeting, but I was at the meeting...
Well, you don't think people were targeted?
Don't believe they were. I think there was...
there was a list that had 3 terms, 9, 12, Tea Party, and conservative. Those
this guy just got handed his ass.
Yeah, I absolutely appreciate the question, and I.
You don't think it was targeting the President of the United States?
I believe the IRS was doing its best to do its job and didn't have the resources and was trying to find ways of accomplishing.
This isn't about resources. This is about targeting specific points of view, Mr. Hackney.
I understand that.
The Attorney General and the President of the United States had a big press conference when it became public and said, we're going to get to the bottom of this. They talked about possible criminal liability, and you're saying it didn't even exist in the very division that you were head of?
I'm not saying it didn't exist. I'm not saying that they were not looking at Tea Party organizations, but I'm also saying that they were looking at many different other organizations, as you'll see from various reports that came out later.
You just got your ass handed to you, you fucking clown.
And frankly, if it was just, we were looking at everyone the same, I don't think Lois Lerner would have taken the fifth when she sat right where you were sitting here today. But I got to get to Mr. Fenton in my last 2 minutes and 30 seconds here. $2 billion since 2001, right, Mr. Fitton? That's what the Clinton Foundation took in. Is that right? $2 billion.
Numbers like that I've seen.
48 million in speeches. I think you said in your opening statements. That we did the math. You said like 200 something. That's like $250,000 for every single speech. He's pretty good. I mean, I've heard him speak, but that is amazing. And then you said in 2008, when Secretary Clinton became secretary, there was an agreement that I think in your testimony you said there were certain things she had to do. For the duration of her appointment, she would not be involved in all this money that the Clinton Foundation was taking in and all the speeches that her husband was doing, right? She wouldn't be signing off or making decisions about that. Is that right?
Yeah.
And the Clinton Foundation would disclose its donors. So there was an agreement that she worked out when she was Senate confirmed.
Right.
Okay. Did they follow the agreement?
No. And not in my view, at least.
So they had to get permission for her to be Secretary of State and continue to do all the things they did. They got permission, they got the okay, and then they didn't follow it.
No, they immediately began, the foundation immediately contacted Ms. Abedin, who worked closely with Mrs. Clinton, to start getting things done for foundation supporters, as I've described. And it's not what I described, the emails.
So the secretary, she kept her part of the deal, but she just had her lawyer, her chief of staff sign off on everything. Is that sort of how it worked?
Yeah, Abedin did the heavy lifting there,
yeah. You think there's a double standard right now in America, Mr. Fenton?
Oh yeah, Mrs. Clinton's being protected by, and was protected, and frankly still is being protected from the consequences of her behavior at the State Department and subsequently.
My colleague from Virginia talked about some things that have happened recently with Mr. Cohen, but I think it's interesting. I don't remember anyone associated during the Clinton investigation. I don't remember anyone associated with the Clinton investigation. Well, first of all, they didn't even call it an investigation. Remember what they were told to call it?
Matter.
Yeah, we're supposed to call it a matter, right? It was obviously an investigation, but it was told to be called a matter. I don't remember Cheryl Mills getting her door kicked in at 5 in the morning and having everything confiscated. I don't remember that at all. In fact, she worked out a deal ahead of time, got immunity before she even turned over any of her records or communications. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd like, I would just love the committees or someone to investigate. We're doing it separately, Judicial Watch, but to find out whether or not, as report suggests, the Foundation investigation the FBI was conducting in 2016 was actively suppressed by the Justice Department and curtailed. The public reports are that FBI agents were only able to read newspaper articles as part of their investigation. They were denied subpoenas and other basic tools available to them.
Yeah.
And when you compare and contrast the special counsel investigation into President Trump and his associates, that's what a real investigation looks like.
Yeah.
Abuses aside, we haven't had anything comparable even during the Clinton email issue.
Yeah.
Certainly this is tied to the Clinton email issue.
Mr. Chairman, I know I'm a little over time. If I could real quick, I didn't expect to spend as much time on Mr. Hackney denying that there was targeting at the IRS. But you're I think exactly right. I've never seen this happen, Mr. Fenton, where the director of the FBI is fired. The deputy director is fired. The chief legal counsel is demoted, then leaves. FBI counsel Lisa Page is demoted, then leaves. And Peter Strzok, deputy head of counterintelligence at the FBI, is demoted and then fired. I've never seen that happen. But what's interesting, those are the same people who ran the Clinton investigation and started and launched the Russian investigation. Never seen that happen to any other federal agency, even as bad as the IRS was. They only had a couple of people, and none of them got fired. They just left. They're still getting a pension. So I've never seen anything like that. And the other thing that always strikes me as sort of interesting, and I'll close with this if I could, Mr. Chairman, is the names they gave the investigations, right? The Clinton investigation was the mid-year exam. But the investigation into possible coordination between the Trump campaign and Russia was Crossfire Hurricane. I like it. Just the name suggests a completely different approach and a completely different standard in how they're going to run the investigation.
Frustrations. I go to Washington, D.C., and suddenly these articles in big publications, like the Washington Post, they never call you, they never ask a question. Suddenly they're the expert, they write all these things about it.
Yes.
I really liked what Donald Trump Jr. tweeted out in this to Ocasio-Cortez, which said, imagine what it's like if they actually hate you.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's a lot of truth to that, but it is endless how many things get written about somebody with no sources, nothing that's highlighted.
If I wanted America to fail, to follow, not lead, to suffer, not prosper, to despair, not dream, I'd start with energy. I'd cut off America's supply of cheap, abundant energy. I couldn't take it by force, so I'd make Americans feel guilty about using the energy that heats their homes, fuels their cars, runs their businesses, and powers their economy. I'd make cheap energy expensive, so that expensive energy would seem cheap. I would empower unelected bureaucrats to all but outlaw America's most abundant sources of energy. After banning its use in America, I'd make it illegal for American companies to ship it overseas. If I wanted America to fail, I'd use their schools to teach one generation of Americans that their factories and their cars will cause a new ice age. And I'd muster a straight face so I could teach the next generation that they're causing global warming. When it's cold out, I call it climate change instead. I'd imply that America's cities and factories could run on wind power and wishes. I'd teach children how to ignore the hypocrisy of condemning logging, mining, and farming while having roofs over their heads, heat in their homes, and food on their tables. I would never teach children that the free market is the only force in human history to uplift the poor, establish the middle class, and create lasting prosperity. Instead, I demonize prosperity itself so they will not miss what they will never have. If I wanted America to fail, I would create countless new regulations and seldom cancel old ones that would be so complicated that only bureaucrats, lawyers, and lobbyists could understand them. That way small businesses with big ideas wouldn't stand a chance. And I would never have to worry about another Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, or Steve Jobs. I would ridicule as flat earthers those who urge them to lower energy costs by increasing supply. And when the evangelists of common sense try to remind people about the laws of supply and demand, I'd enlist the sympathetic media to drown them out. If I wanted America to fail, I would empower unaccountable bureaucracy seated in a distant capital to bully Americans out of their dreams and their property rights. I'd send federal agents to raid guitar factories for using the wrong kind of wood. I'd force homeowners to tear down their own homes built on their own land. I'd make it almost impossible for farmers to farm, miners to mine, loggers to log, and builders to build. Because I don't believe in free markets, I'd invent false ones. I'd devise fictitious products like carbon credits and trade them in imaginary markets. I'd convince people that this would create jobs and be good for the economy. If I wanted America to fail, for every concern I'd invent a crisis, and for every crisis I'd invent a cause, like shutting down entire industries and killing tens of thousands of jobs in the name of saving spotted owls. And when everyone learned the stunning irony that the owls were victims of their larger cousins and not people, it would already be decades too late. If I wanted America to fail, I'd make it easier to stop commerce than to start it, easier to kill jobs than create them, more fashionable to resent success than to seek it. When industries seek to create jobs, I file lawsuits to stop them, and then I make taxpayers pay for my lawyers. If I wanted America to fail, I would transform the environmental agenda from a document of conservation to an economic suicide pact. I would concede entire industries to our economic rivals by imposing regulations that cost trillions. I would celebrate those who preach environmental austerity in public while indulging a lavish lifestyle in private. I convince Americans that Europe has it right and that America has it wrong. If I wanted America to fail, I would prey on the goodness and the decency of ordinary Americans. I would only need to convince them that all of this is for the greater good. If I wanted America to fail, I suppose I wouldn't change a thing.
We assembled here today are issuing a new decree to be heard in every city, in every foreign capital, and in every hall of power. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
The department became a repository of information and provided a protective wall between the investigative efforts of the FBI and the legislative branch. Importantly, it also served as the firewall within the executive branch, serving as the insulating barrier between the FBI and Obama officials. The department had become legendary for its stonewalling tactics with Congress. The DOJ, which was fully aware of the actions being taken by James Comey and the FBI, also became an active element acting against members of the Trump campaign. Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates, along with Mary McCord, the head of the DOJ's National Security Division, was actively involved in efforts to remove General Michael Flynn from his position as National Security Advisor to President Trump. To this day, it remains unknown which individual was responsible for making public Flynn's call with the Russian ambassador. Flynn ultimately pleaded guilty to a process crime, lying to the FBI. There have been questions raised in Congress regarding the possible alteration of FD 302s, the written notes of Flynn's FBI interviews. Special counsel Robert Mueller has repeatedly deferred Flynn's sentencing hearing. David Luffman, Deputy Assistant Attorney General in charge of counterintelligence at the DOJ's National Security Division, played a key role in both the Clinton email server and Russian hacking investigations. An FBI investigation led by McCabe could continue unhindered. Next up, the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice, which comprises 60 agencies, was transformed during the Obama years. The department is forbidden by federal law from hiring employees based on political affiliation. However, a series of investigative articles by PJ Media published during Eric Holder's tenure as Attorney General revealed an unsettling pattern of ideological conformity among new hires at the DOJ. Only lawyers from the progressive left were hired. Not one single moderate or conservative lawyer made the cut. This is significant as the DOJ enjoys significant latitude in determining who will be subject to prosecution. The DOJ's job in Spygate was to facilitate the legal side of surveillance while providing a protective layer of cover for all those involved.
The good guys in the government, in the House, keep this line of questioning, knowing that this is going to be public. They want us to know the importance of the Anthony Weiner laptop. So let's look into this. What we're going to see here is that there was a whole month from the end of September to October 27th when they did nothing on the laptop. And then if you recall, Comey announced that they were reopening the email investigation after saying on July 5th, 2016 that no charges should be brought against Hillary Clinton. Everything is great. Everything's honky-dory. She didn't mean it. Slap on the wrist. Not a big deal. No one will prosecute. Right? Remember that malarkey. And then, interestingly enough, we had all of these banners of disingenuous origin happen across the nation, which started to divide us against, by race and law enforcement. Go back and look at the timeline. I remember that very clearly. He absolves Hillary Clinton, and all of a sudden we have all of these occurrences the following days to distract us from that. So here we are. There's an email investigation that he concludes supposedly in July after taking testimony not under oath from Hillary Clinton. We're supposed to forget about it. The Wiener laptop comes up at the end of September, and they do nothing about it for a month. But this is where it gets really interesting. Just follow this. It's exposing who is involved in this cover-up. All right, so we come to this point right here. By the way, when they talk about mid-year exam, that was the FBI code name for the Clinton email investigation. It was called mid-year. Grassley asked Comey in another hearing I read, I don't remember it, but I remember reading in another hearing that Grassley questioned Comey if this was called mid-year because they wanted to wrap it up before the middle of the year so that this thing can go away and Hillary Clinton could win the presidency. That's why I remember the name of it. But it's called the mid-year or mid-year exam. That was the code name for the email investigation.